Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session. Today, we are going to have our next Cloud Launch and Learn session with Lalit Rawat. Okay, and before going forward, I want to make sure that everybody can hear and listen to us clearly. So, Lalit, can you just speak up just to make sure we don't have any technical issues here?
Hi, I'm able to hear you. So
Okay,
it's really
that's
nice to
good.
see you.
Okay, so Lalit is actually, you are going to learn more about him from his presentation. He's a Microsoft Azure MVP and he has a number of Azure certifications. But today, Lalit is going to talk about all about Azure security and governance, right? So we are going to learn
Yep.
more about on high level what it is, what services we have in Azure, and how it can help you in your day-to-day job. So that said, I'm going to bring the slide and give it so basically it's all yours, Solid. Please start your session. Thank you.
Thanks for hosting the session. And I would say this is my second session with at Cloud Lunch and Learn, and I'm really enjoying. So as moderator told, right, what are the things which we will be discussing in that, and probably I'll just introduce myself. I'm Lalit. I'm a Microsoft Azure MVP and then Azure Master of the Month in initial days, and then become architect. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, a community leader. I train hundreds of people, mentor them around it. I do certifications and all of those. Apart from that, I'm author of two books. One is for exam prep and another one for Azure interview prep. So that's it about myself. And in this today's sessions, we are going to learn during lunch is what is Azure security and what are the services are there and how we can create a zero trust model with Microsoft Azure services. So let me just come to my next slide. So what are the things I will be doing into this? Let's just make sure your modern workplace to be secure with Azure security services and tools. And I will be segregating those tools in number of multiple steps, and I'll explain why those are the tools and the services are required. So before we go to the cloud, why we have a couple of things. The question is why we have to move to the cloud. What are the security concerns? How you're going to optimize my investment? What are the risk exposure and all of those things, right? If you refer to public and then private and kind of KPMG report and all of those, right, it is there widely mentioned. But as and when that pandemic is happen, most of the companies decentralizing their data centers and migrating to the cloud, they realize cloud is really relative, and then Microsoft Azure is provides the endless integrations with their security services, with their infrastructure, and all of those stuffs, right? So today I'm taking the small topics of the security part. Let's just discuss on that one. So what will happen when you have some kind of cloud concerns, priest, and all of those stuffs? So as and when you think to migrate those services to cloud in terms of management, what are the questions are there, right? So basically, management is wanted to increase their distributed systems, the cloud environment. They wanted it more dynamic, and attackers also they're going in continue their innovating. So they find out new ways to attack and get your resources around it, right? Though even you deploy some services in Microsoft Azure and you do not implicate or you are not going to implement those services which will help you to govern the Microsoft Azure or secure the Microsoft Azure component, you are in bad shape, I would say. Because let's just say we just create a VM or we just create a app services or any of the services around a SQL database and all. If there is some SQL injection will happen, or there will be brute attack will happen on VM. What are the challenges? These are major challenges, and these are the highly attacked. There is DDoS attacks and so many other stuffs would be there, right? So how you going to secure using multiple services? How you going to help your companies or your partners with this cloud governance and then cloud security model? Everyone knows the cloud is dynamically more. You can manage centralized and all. What will happen right afterwards? So, and that particularly specific, we have covered up what are the responsibilities, the key responsibilities which Microsoft has a commitment, and what are the joint responsibilities of the customers. In my career, I have seen many customers who say that I'm going to deploy something in Microsoft Azure. It's Microsoft Azure responsibilities. But if you see into the real time, it's not. The security concerns has been defined in a manner that what are the things Microsoft is going to commit, what are the things they are going to secure, and what are other steps they are doing. The responsibilities are there, right? So, in terms of Microsoft Azure, what are their commitments? They'll secure their physical assets. On top of that, there is a virtualizations. So they are going to secure from their end the data centers operations, then the cloud infrastructure, and top of that they are providing the services which customer has to buy or customer has to take those services and implement based on your resource capabilities. Let's just say if there's a VM, you have network security groups, and if you have an applications, there's Azure front door. If you have some applications which is publicly accessible, you have front door application gateway can be implemented and reduce such kind of attacks. So that's kind of a high level overview which I will be giving. But again, how you're going to secure your data? Data is a major part. You just have a terabytes of data, you just go put into the cloud. It's neither way is going to secure. So Microsoft Azure is giving you that platform that you can encrypt your end-to-end data. You can work on your platform services. Though even if you just go with this model ISPS and says platform services which Microsoft 80% is managing, but they do not govern your data, because the data backup and other stuffs you have to be take care, right? So if there is a disaster or there would be some issues around it, you will have to take care. You have to encrypt those data. You have to make sure they have been backed up and all of those. So security is not some things which we will put the control around it, but how you're going to secure and save your data is also important, because there are so many incidents where our data has been breached, and most of the attacks, I would say 90% of the attacks, are happening to get the data. And you can see there is a report also. A lot of people come around and say, I wanted to, they just attack to, enter in your systems and hack some things and probably ask for money, or they just wanted to, have your data and sell it somewhere, right? So though even there are Microsoft, Facebook, there are other companies also has come into those attacks, but they have improved their security levels. Even Microsoft, they have blue team and a red team, one team which prevent the attack, another team will regularly innovate those things and releases those patches how they're going to secure their infrastructure, right? So the second slide, which I will be talking about, what are the responsibilities zone around the on-premises versus ISPS and SaaS environment, right? So what will happen in responsibility zone in on-premises, as a customer or partner or client, we are managing everything in terms of governing the data, access management, endpoint, identity and infrastructure, applications, network control, operating systems, everything, physical data centers and all of those. In terms of if it comes with the compute services or any IS related stuffs, what are the things we are going to manage, right? So there would be, you're going to govern your data, the right managements with the customers, right? And access management with the customers, applications, network controls should be given. And then what are the operating systems you wanted to put in? You wanted to put in some customized image which has a couple of security tools, or you wanted to have a couple of security patches to be applied and all of those things. So it's give you kind of bulk of services which you can integrate and can manage your own, similarly to a data centers. But what you are not going to manage is the physical and the data centers and their networks, right? In past services, you will be responsible for the data access management, identity, and the shared responsibilities for identity and infrastructure, applications, and network controls should be managed by Microsoft as well as yours, right? So all of those things there, because if you're utilizing the past services, there are a lot of things come up. Let's say private endpoint. Now they have come up with the private endpoint. Earlier it is NSG service tag which you're going to put in, right? So now those areas that you can manage those things from your prospects, you can secure all of those things. In terms of software as a services, the data governance and right management with the customers, client endpoint, account and access management with the customers, and then only identity and direct infrastructure would be shared, because you would have to connect from the Microsoft backend data centers to enable a couple of services to interact with another services. But there is one services came up which is private endpoint, which helps you to connect single services, a one-on-one connectivity from one service to another service. Let's just say you wanted to communicate web apps to a SQL databases. There is a one service which you can, using the endpoint, you can connect privately using your virtual networks or the IP address, the private IP address, to connect to the another services with that with the another IP addresses, right? So both would need a VNet integrations and then a couple of other areas which we can cover up. How you're going to secure your Microsoft Azure environment and all of those stuffs, right? In terms of, I have also presented that the same PPT in 2009 Global Bootcamp as well, and that is what it covers everything in Microsoft Azure environment. So Microsoft Azure security, how you're going to, what are the services you're going to leverage? If we talk about the network, you're going to leverage the NSG, VNet, private endpoint, service endpoint, expressed out for the on-premises connectivity. Then in terms of database security, there are a couple of other modules which you're going to utilize. You can integrate your Azure Active Directory and enable the RBAC for database access. And then there are a couple of securities, let's say the bad query review, or someone is trying to pull your data, or someone has put that data to the GitHub and kinds of other stuffs. Someone is trying to access your data. All of those things would be there in terms of data security, and then many more other stuffs would be there. Then if we talk about the application security, there is load balancers, there is application gateway, and there are front door, which is the load balancing mechanism. But application gateway and the front door has layer 7 protocol. They do also provide the web applications firewall, which has defined all the rules which is OSPF, the security organizations has built in terms of all the attacks. If someone is trying to hack your data from here and there, or let's just say someone is trying to connect to you, first it will come to the application gateway or the front door, and that rule to be validated, and then only it is going to pass the data. Otherwise it will drop the packet there itself, right? So that's how they're going to secure in terms of application. Then you can integrate your app services with the VNet, and you can utilize a DMG zone kind of stuff. Another part is security in terms of subscriptions. How you're going to secure your subscriptions what are the policies you're going to implement, what are the authentications level you are going to implement, how you're going to make sure that if you created some of the resource should not be deleted. For that, Azure policies, there are around 942 or more Azure policies in terms of all the services, Kubernetes, databases, VMs, patch services, app services, and patch management, and so many others. And then if you have access management related policies, right? All of those things is there. And then you have a RBAC for subscription is separate, and then for your Active Directory tenant it's separate. For subscriptions, we call it the role-based access control, where we'll get three roles: owner, contributor, and reader. So owner can provide the permissions to someone, whereas contributor can contribute, cannot provide the permissions to another resources. But apart from that, you can customize those roles, okay, based on your requirement. You wanted to give the owner access to one services, but he cannot give the access. So you can also customize those roles from the portal, and probably if I'll get some time, I'll show you how those things are working. Then we'll have our monitoring services, resources. So why I put the monitoring services, though even you implement a whole bunch of security services, until and unless you're not going to monitor those services, how you'll come to know if someone is trying to hack something, right? So when you have a monitoring services or monitoring resources, you'll come to know from where your services are getting from where how your services are getting impacted, what are your alerts are, right, in terms of security, in terms of your data related breaches and all of those stuff. So monitoring is really really important. For app services, where we Azure services is providing applications monitoring, then log analytics. Azure Monitor has lot many other capabilities to it, so which will track down. And behind that, they have AI/ML kind of mechanism, uh, uh, which has their own algorithm, and they'll as and when something went wrong, they'll send you an alert if you configure the Azure Monitor. Then I'll have identity and access management. Azure Active Directory itself is very secure in how they're going to do it, right? So initially, when they launched Microsoft Azure, they have a same role, which if you are a global administrator, you can access the subscriptions. But now they have segregated Active Directory role and then subscription role to separate it. If you have an Active Directory environment access, you cannot access the subscriptions. If you have a subscription access, you cannot access the Active Directory environment or AD. Okay, because why they have to segregate? Because they wanted to define a boundary line between these two services, so make sure that infrastructures are ready or probably it is secure. So that is one. Then we'll have a conditional access. Let's just say your organizations works into the 5 different states or 5 different countries. You want only those users to be logged in. You can allow those users to the conditional access and say these are the locations which I'm working, and rest of the locations has to be denied. And none of the resources can be logged in, though even they travel to other the 6 states, or let us say the another country, they will not be able to access. They had to specifically come to the VPN network, connect to it, and then only they will be able to log in, right? So that is something is there. Then you have identity access and review, right? So you can review that who has logged in. You can put the PIM, Privileged Identity Access Management, which let's say you wanted to access the Azure environment for 8 hours, and after 8 hours, there is no need, right? You're working hours that month. Then you can implement the privileged identity management for that, and you can secure your access. So as and when someone wants to access your subscriptions, they'll go to the PIM, request it. Once the request is approved, they'll allow you to access. And once your time is over, and automatically remove the access from the group or from the subscriptions. So if after those non-working hours someone is trying to log in, they will won't be able to log into your subscription. So someone trying to hack also, that is there. Then the third one is operational security. How that operational securities will work, right? So in this, you wanted to do a security patching. You wanted to understand your subscriptions health, whether what are the services are healthy. There are a couple of times there are outages, there is upgradations going on from the Microsoft, and so all of those things you'll get it into the monitor under the subscriptions health and services health. Right? All of those things would be there. Then the trust center is gives you a compliance related stuffs. What are the compliance which you are going to meet, and what are the compliance that's going to related, and all of those things you'll get it into the trust center. And whether your sources are compliant or not, that will be there. Then data security, you can utilize Azure Key Vault for encryptions, and then you can secure your credentials. You can utilize and put your certificates. No, so I'm sorry for applications encryptions, or let's just say you wanted to encrypt your code, or you put some credentials around it, right? And you wanted to access those things. You can integrate your key vault to your code, and then access those credentials using the URI or using those APIs specific, but not for the encryptions. For encryptions, there is a separate tool called Bitlocker, or probably you can say data security, in terms of you can encrypt your services. So you can encrypt your data, end-to-end data, and you can create a new key vault and then put those keys there and encrypt your whole data around it. Okay, so you can encrypt your storage account, you can encrypt your disk, right? These are the two major sources of your data. If you wanted to you know uh, utilizes into the storing the credentials, and all of those stuff will be covered into the key vault. So this is a pretty much services which is around the Azure security, which you can utilize and make sure that whatever the best practices of Microsoft Azure in terms of securities to be implemented. There are lot of other services which is came up during this. I've not done, I've not put it here, but that will be too much. But probably in the next sessions I would put that. Okay, so all of those things are there. So you can see this it's a pretty much is a wider, and it's going to be wider. And Microsoft itself have a lot of boundary founding in lot of other activities, the courses, 8500 and all of those which you can go through, you can learn if you wanted to deep dive in terms of Microsoft Azure security. So what are the security capabilities in the
Good
services?
question here, Lalit.
Yeah,
Sorry, there's question. So from Anthony, and I'll bring that to the studio. So he
yeah.
asked that how is an attack dealt? I mean, how Microsoft deal with the attack if a customer data is under attack and that data is in Azure Data Center?
Okay, can you just repeat your questions? I just missed it.
I put it there. How is an attack dealt with by Microsoft when a customer data is in Azure Data Center?
Okay, so how Microsoft will deal with it, right? So as I told in my previous slide, right, as and when there is any attack, or there would be some compromise from the client end and the customer end, it could be the one of the prospects. But as and when that attack is happen, right, in Microsoft Cloud Defender, there is one tool, I missed that name, the map and all of those things are there, right? So as and when that will happen, it will automatically trigger an alert to the customers. I'll give you the one more example. I was working with one of the reputed bank, and someone is trying to put that code into the GitHub and some other sources. They detect that one and send an alert. We got that, and then we took the those actions and around it, right? So Microsoft is saying that whenever your data into Microsoft Azure, you have to encrypt those data, and those keys will not be there with anyone at all. And still someone is trying to hit to your applications and all of those stuffs, can be tracked. So behind that, Microsoft is running an algorithm of AI, ML, and other services which will keep tracking. So whatever the attacks is already happened, right? They have already in their list, and there are two teams. One is red team and blue team who will continue. You will working 24/7 to make sure improve the security services and track whatever the attacks is happening around that. And that's the reason they have come up with multiple things that if your resources are there, you can integrate with the VNet, you can have a DDoS protections, and we'll have a web applications firewall, and all of those. It's just our responsibility to integrate. Hope that could be your answer.
So basically, what you are saying, just to recap, the answer is you
Yeah.
need to have security integrated services in place so that you can get detection as a customer. Otherwise, if you don't have them in place, Microsoft will still track the attack and prevent that if they find it suspicious. Correct?
Yes.
All right. So next question. Thank you for that. Let me remove this and put another question from VJ. So he asks, will monitoring service include monitoring of security aspects too?
So Azure monitoring will not do in terms of the securities and all of those. There's infrastructure monitoring, but Azure Monitor will help you if you are integrated Azure Defender on it. Okay, if you integrated Azure Defender with that, Azure Monitor certainly collaborate internally, and that they will give you an alert in terms of there is some issues or some attacks are there and all of those things. That's the possibilities, because Azure Defender is the tool who detects those security incidents, and then from the Azure Monitor you can put those alerts you have to configure, and then you'll get all of those things there. So in Azure Defender also there's you can configure from Azure Defender, so whenever there's breaches of your security, it will trigger an alert. You
All
can do
right.
that. Yeah.
Sure. So is it like Azure Defender or it's Microsoft Defender?
You can say the Microsoft Defender or Azure Defender.
Yeah, I
So
believe that, yeah, there
initially,
was some
yeah,
renaming, like there was some rebranding
yeah,
of security services, maybe 3, 4 months ago during
yeah,
the Ignite, right? And
yes,
there was some confusion. But yes, that there are like most of the services Defender, they are rebranded to Microsoft Defender, and you have different categories, right? You have Microsoft
right,
Defender for cloud apps, right?
yep,
And then you have for M365 for device and stuff like that. So you need to target that specific Microsoft Defender service, probably, to do that. And plus, if you want to have this holistic approach, probably they need to set up the Azure Log Analytic workspace and make sure they are, gathering the logs uh, in one common place so they can see the tracks and stuff like that. All right,
right.
good.
Yep.
One more question, not question actually. There is so Anthony said thanks, Lalit. Appreciate the answer. So that's good. So we can continue now. Thank you.
Yeah. Even I'll add to your point. Microsoft Defender before that session, and Microsoft Defender, and initial days is Azure Security Centers. So they rebranded with the Microsoft Defenders. Thanks for adding that. So what are the key capabilities we'll discuss in that? Okay. They have the network security. Network security has a lot of services. There are a couple of services which I do not get my slide to be put in because there are a lot of services are there. So they have microservices, service endpoint, DDoS, NSG, service tags, right? Uh, Private endpoint if you wanted to connect on premises to Azure, the site to site connectivity, and similarly the you wanted to have your laptop to be connected to the cloud. It's a point to site connectivity. Express out, which provides a dedicated connections and more secure, but more expensive around it. Okay. And then virtual network, virtual appliance, and so many other services, the firewall, applications firewall, service endpoints, all of those things are there. For monitoring, Azure Log Analytics, Azure Monitor, you can even uh, have a track of your network data flow, which is a network watcher. And that has really helped me whenever I wanted to troubleshoot. I wanted to find out how my traffic is going to flow, what are the hops, how it is going to flow, where it is going, whether it is going outside of data centers or not. All of those things, that troubleshooting steps, you can do it from that network voucher. Then there is a compliance program for Microsoft, the compliance manager, and now they have merged it with multiple things recently with this Ignite. There would be Microsoft Trust Centers, the compliance managers. Again, it's a part of M365, Azure IP Advantage and Legals. Then you'll have Identity Access Management, B2B and B2C, Domain Controller, Conditional Access, Identity Protections, right? A privileged identity management, applications proxy. You can integrate your applications to Azure uh, and have your OAuth, or you can have integrated with the Google and all of those to B2C kind of stuffs, right? And then they have plenty of sites in Microsoft Docs as well. Uh, and in terms of DDoS mitigations, how you're going to mitigate DDoS attacks, right? Uh, they have come up with the new features which integrate the DDoS integrations with VNet, right? And then you'll have Azure Traffic Managers who can put a CDN load balancers or a Fabric as protections around it. Then infrastructure securities comes with the data centers, your advanced threat protections, and then confidential computing, where there is a confidential data, then you can go and take care of buy a confidential computing, which means you are owning that particular hardware. Even Microsoft operations data center cannot touch that hardware. Okay, so in all those encryptions and what are the policies you're going to put into the confidential computing, it's yours. And if you talk about the data loss preventions, cloud app discoveries, Azure information protections, encryptions, Azure Key Vault, Azure storage services, disk encryptions, SQL transaction data encryptions, SQL always encrypted, Cosmos DB encryption. So you can see like lot of encryption mechanism are there, and there are lot to add. I would love to add, but my slide is small in terms of to add all of those services. But these are the major services which you can put in your best practices that would really secure your environment. And then configuration manager, as I told, Azure Security Centers is become Microsoft Defender. So we'll say as a Microsoft Defender, then we have Azure Resource Manager. You can deploy your services using Azure ARM template or management group. You have Blueprint there, Azure Advisor, which also advise how you're going to save your cost, the compute, as well as I tell you what are the security gaps on that. So if you have your Microsoft Azure Defenders enabled, then only Azure Advisor will work. But it will just tell you, give you an advisor saying that these are the loopholes here and you have to fix it. And then if you wanted to secure your API management, REST API related solutions, there are Azure API management and Azure API management gateway. Basically, it comes under the API management. The gateway is there which can create that, and you can integrate with multiple of applications, and based on your rules on the API management, allow your REST API to communicate to the multiple applications and take the data or authenticate and multiple other steps. So these are the wonderful capabilities on that part. Then what does Azure Defender does is it is a one place to rule it for all. So Microsoft Defender helps you to protect your data, and it just give you a suggestions with the solutions. I'll give you the demo afterwards how it will work. So if you can see in the graphic pics, right, you have a compute. There are 15 red color and one in green and another in blue, right? So it's just saying red is you would have to have those alerts, take it very seriously because that might cause some things. Then I'll have a storage and data, which is whether your data is encrypted, storage account, having a secure transfer is enabled, and all of those steps. and other services is also there. So when I just give you the Azure Defender demo today, all of those things are going to cover. Then how you're going to secure your compute. So you can implement your operating systems, right? You can put the JIT, VM access. JIT is just in time, let's just say. So basically what we're trying to do is you are restricting users to log in beyond 8 hours, 9 hours, or 10 hours, or whatever their need, right? Let's just say a contractor who works for a company for 4 hours, we cannot give them the access for 24 hours. So just in time will enable that user to, only to log in those 4 hours. After that, you can logged off, right? And if you need again access, you can, raise a request, new request, put the justification and put it. So what it help, apart from that, it also he help for the Brutus attacks. You can, have your configurations checks, like you'll have your, in terms of network control, NSG, you can configure the BABF, SSL usage, and so many other stuffs, right? And in data governance, there's a file integrity and data classification and encryption at rest uh, with the Cloud Defender. These are the features are there. What are the client endpoint? Even you can integrate your Cloud Defender with the third-party tool or your on-premises services to be integrated. Access and management will have MFA and access hygiene recommendations, identity and directory infrastructure. You can integrate your sorry AD, identity protections, right? And all of those things would be there. Just give me a 1 second. Sorry.
That's fine. You're okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Good, good.
Okay. So all of those things are there, and pretty much how you're going to secure your compute in the various way. Then this is the most lovable document which come up, I think, previous to Ignite or in Ignite. I'm not sure. Which I took it from the MS Docs. So whenever you are building your infrastructure from scratch, how you're going to put your zero trust policies informants from the day one, right? So what are the services are there? You have to understand what are the applications are going to be public, whether it is private or whether it is public. If it is public, how we are going to encrypt or label them or prevent them, or how we are going to email or document those stuffs. The structured data, right? And you'll have adapted access, SaaS apps or on-premises apps are there. Then how you're going to control your runtime in terms of IS, because you have multiple of machines, which is running 24 by 7s, but not the dev and test one should run 24 by 7. So you can have some automation, so you can shut down. If not, you can implement JIT or the version controlling in terms of in your code. Code will come up the version controlling, and JIT will come with infrastructure services, which I have explained just in time. So whenever you need it, you utilize this. In terms of threat protections, you have risk assessments, responsive automations would be there, threat intelligence, and forensic. I think Anthony asked that questions, right? How Microsoft detects. So these are the parameters which Microsoft runs in. As and when there would be any instances happen, there's a response team or there's a automations is created in such a way that it will alert you or the subscription owner. They have built up a huge threat intelligences, forensics teams, and all of those to continue that assessments. You can request that enforcements. You can apply the Azure policies. In tune device management, right? Identity access or identity risk management with human or non-human devices. You'll have a multi-factor authentications, right? You'll have a conditional access, privilege identity management, and so many other stuff which we'll talk about. But this is just a zero trust architecture, which I would like to show you that how your security postures assessments would be and how your users optimizations would be in terms of that. So if you have any questions around that, probably ask and then I'll go with the demo. I have other slides to be covered, but I don't think so. We have enough time. So I'll just walk you through with the Azure Defender, right? That's Microsoft Defender. I'm sorry, it just I'll used to get some time to be used on that. So as and when I open this Microsoft Defender, so what I see, what are my services are security postures, right? Now you can integrate Microsoft Defender with Microsoft Azure, AWS, and GCP. In this overview or dashboards, I have two subscriptions, 9 resources has been assessed, 16 recommendations, and what are the security alerts? I'll get that one. But for that, I have to might upgrade the plan to integrate. It's asking us to upgrade the plan to get all of those, and these security alerts will have suspension rule. You have security alerts map, a sample alert, and then alert webhook. You can download that report to the CSP. Even I can upgrade also. That's absolutely fine for me. That will take some time to implement things there. So that's how the security alerts will work. Okay. So in this, if you go in the security alerts map, you will find from which location or from the which countries someone is trying to attack to your resources. You can easily identify. Probably it does also provide the IP addresses. So it's contain the IP address targeting the resources and it will show you in your map. Right? That is there. Then I'll come into the recommendations here. Could be. So you can say I have couple of recommendations where my cloud defender score is 23. I have only Azure services, not other cloud platform. In that, if you can see, it's recommending me to enable the multi-factor authentications, such as you can see here, it's in red for my, owner permissions as well as for the writer permissions is there. If I'll click on that, it does also give me a solution. Okay, these are the recommendations. So you don't have to search for the Microsoft Docs. You feel okay, where I can go, what I will do, all of those things. You don't have to worry about it. But if you wanted to exempt it, you can click on exempted. You know that we don't want it to enable for that particular account or with the particular services. You can exempt it, or your company does not want to buy a premium licenses. That is absolutely fine that you can exempt. But these are the steps which is clearly defined in Microsoft Defender that you can enable those resources or services around it, right? And then what are the resources? These two subscriptions are there. Then there is one more, data in transit. So I have a storage account, but the compliance is healthy, or you can say there, or you can say it's medium. But if I go here, and it does also give me the solutions and recommendations that how I can fix this particular stuff. So Microsoft Defender does not provide you the alerts or the recommendation, but it does also provide you the solutions. Then we'll have a security enhancement features here. the implementation best practices, which is unassigned. You can see, right, multiple of those things are there. Owners or auto provisioning of log analytics. Subscriptions should have contact email security list, email notifications to be configured. So it just give you all of those, whatever is completed. I'll just, based on that, it will just give you a score. That is the one part. Then if you comes into the regulatory compliance, how you are going to make sure you are you're working or your infrastructure is into a regulated environment, right? So there are four parts of it. One is SOC, TPS, ISO 27001, and PCI DSS, and there would be one more. So PCI DSS in Azure Security Benchmark, and then all of those things are there, right? Based on those, they already have their automatic mechanism to go and check your resources, whether your resources are compliant or not. Based on that, it will give you a rating, or it just give you out of 4, 13, 15, 20, and 40 and 43. So if I'll just click on that, which I get Azure Security Benchmarks here, where I have not implemented the solution. So these are the controls where I don't have network segments and boundary. Then I'll see the adopted control and all of those. Then I'm going to have storage account related issues. Then I might be having a DNS related. DNS is not enabled. Defender, the Azure Defender for DNS should be enabled. And then login and thread protections is there. So if you can see, right, what are the source control, you wanted to get that contact details here. I'll have complete details here that on what benchmark they are, putting us on that. And now you wanted to know at how your what are your workload has been protected in that particular environment. So there are one VMs, three storage account, one DNS, or the source group. All of those things will come here. What are the how many services have you installed the agent, and then what are the services have not covered? Everything inside it would be there, and if you can see the network map. So in this particular network map, it will tell you for your subscriptions prospect. It's not upgraded one, so that's the reason it's giving some error. But it just give you a layer topology and gives you where your networks has some kind of issue, so you can have all of those recommendations around it. Then there's adapter control, container image scanning, adapter network hardware networkings would be there. How you going to SQL related, because I don't have any SQL databases, so it's not going to put that. There's no assessments at all. Okay. Otherwise, it just give you the vulnerability and then the solutions as well. So you wanted to configure the security alerts from here. Then what are your inventory? These are your inventory out of how many sources are unhealthy, unmonitored and all. Then book, which has your couple of scripts which is already written. So if I just wanted to get my vulnerability assessments, I'll just click on that, and it will take some time to reflect the data. As of now, I don't have container registries or unhealthy virtual machines. It just gives some data around it that it did not find anything. So other webhook works also. If you can, you wanted to looked out, you can also look out that secure score over time, right? So we have to configure the webhook book, and then only we'll be getting it. Probably there's no items around it, but that's how you can do it. Then the last one I would say, community for Cloud Defender or Cloud Community Defender for Cloud Community, where you can have a blog post, learnings, and all of this. You can go there. You don't have to search somewhere here and there, but you can always have those learnings here and then do that. Then it'll have a firewall manager, right? So if you have a firewall which is integrated with it, that is also integrated as a part of Cloud Defender. How many VNets I have, what are the virtual networks, related stuffs and all. Yeah. And we talked about the workflow automations. You can integrate your workflow automations with the logic apps. If I'm not wrong, right? So you put the name, the trigger conditions, there are security alerts, name, right? And if you can see the logic apps. So we talk about, right, the logic apps and automations flow, the security flow will happen through the logic apps. So what are your securities, conditions, alerts, and all of those things. You can put it in your at the automations workflow, and then it will just trigger those alerts for your services or your monitors. Then you can also integrate the non-Azure servers, SIM, or Azure applications. Non-Azure servers, previous it called as an AWS, Google, or on-premises services, which you can integrate. SIM solutions could be your third-party solutions, and then application gateway. If you are utilizing application gateway with web application firewall, you can also integrate that as well. Then in the last, I'll have the environment settings. What are my subscriptions, right? I have these two Azure sub, then the tenant under that. I have two more management groups, and then I've just described the subscriptions. So what I did, if I put the policies on the tenant, all these policies would be implemented all. It's not limited to that, but I can implement to a specific subscriptions or to a tenant group. If I wanted to implement some policies to throughout my subscriptions or to my organizations, I will always put into that root group. That will, common policies will be distributed, and then few of the policies I'll put specific to subscriptions, which will make sure my environment is always following and securing or governing things, right? I would say let's just have 4 minutes for question and answer. If you guys have any questions, please do ask. I would be happy to answer those queries. I would like to cover more. I have Azure policies and all of those things covered, but
Yes.
time
So
doesn't allows. Yeah.
yeah, I looked at the chat. Thank you. Actually, it was pretty interesting to see the demo. And I don't see any questions on the chat, but because our topic was about, Azure security and governance, right? So when you look at governance from IT perspective, and plus there's a data governance as a branch of it. So how you would, on a high level, describe it when somebody is trying to learn about them and trying to get into the right track of learning about those services in Azure.
Yeah. So data governance, like if we talk about the governance, it's not only the data governance, that how you go governing the data. That is the one part of it. The governance is come with your controls and then solutions which you implemented in the subscriptions. So what are the services are there? There are Azure policies, right? Which you can implement. And let's just say someone has built some infrastructure and forget to enable the backup. That you don't have any control. And similarly, I have seen in my experience, I was working with one of the customers. There are hundreds of VMs which has been not backed up in their productions. So how you're going to control that? The second part is RBAC. How are you going to control your access to not allow a third party or to a vendor, which you can do it from B2C, or you can invite a guest users. Then you have a blueprint which you can utilize and deploy those resources around it. Then comes with the data governance that will enable the encryptions. You have a backups, Azure firewalls. There is new preview features comes in backup that initially it is 24 hours you can take a one time. Now you can take three times within 24 hours. That the new policies came up in Azure Backup Vault. So I'll just give you a glimpse of Azure policies, though even I like to cover more on that, but I'll just give you a glimpse on that.
And Lalit, if you want, you can speak about Azure Security Benchmark as a part of Azure Policies and set of rules that defines the minimum baseline recommended from Azure if you want.
Sure, I'll happy to do that. So I have just also implemented multiple of policies from my subscriptions. So if you can see here, right, there are multiple of benchmark. I'll just say ACS default. This is your securities benchmarks, and that how you're going to be. So these are the benchmarks are there. You can see secure cloud services, network control, DDoS, firewall, right? And so how you're getting those things? You are getting all of those stuffs from these policies which I have applied to the security centers. Restrict the access, use a single sign on authentications to the services, right? So these are the benchmarks. It does not, cover a single one, but it does also provides a vulnerability management and assessments if your VMs are not patched. It will just give you that alert. Even it does also covers your login and threat analysis, asset management, X limit to the access management stuffs, how you're going to secure your DevOps infrastructure, DevOps related stuffs are there. Then incident response, whether detection or analyzing any of the high priority or high quality alerts at all sent, investigating your incidents, prioritizing it, right? Educating and recovery related automated incident. All of those things are there. And then it does also covers the governance and strategy policies. So what your organization need in terms of governance, how you're going to align your organization roles, responsibilities, and accountabilities, how you're going to define your access management, how you're going to define your data protection strategy, the network security strategy, the posture, security posture for your management, privilege identity access, backup and recovery, DR strategy, endpoint strategies, DevOps securities, which is called as a DevSecOps, right? All of those things are there. If I just click on that, it's just nothing but it's just a definitions out there. So if you can see, these are the all the mandate and these are the links. So if you wanted to learn more about the governance, these policies are the best to start with it. And probably I can just drop you an email if you just wanted to like who were attending the sessions, attendees. I would love to go through those MS docs and probably we can have one more sessions in terms of how you're going to manage the subscriptions and then governance around it. So you can see like not even a single services are left on that part, including the DevOps pipeline to responsibilities, resources, and all of those things are there. So this is the one and where I can see I'm not compliant. I put it that way because I just wanted to have those things to be enabled to showcase the demo. And this is the assessments and all.
I
Yes.
think yeah, that's really good, Lalit, that you put this demo in place and have this red uncompliant things. Because we came to the end of the sessions already 1 hour past. Is there something? Is there a final slide where you wanna where they use all these people who are attending the session can go and ask you questions? Like, do you have LinkedIn, Twitter, anything that where you want to direct the users here?
Yeah, they can
Do you
always
have any
reach out to
question?
me on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my LinkedIn IG is lalit01.rawat. I'm like I can easily get in there or in
Yeah, you
Twitter.
can put that. Yeah, just put your name in the LinkedIn and then they will find it. That what you mean?
Sure. Yeah, they can find it.
All right.
They'll just put my name on the LinkedIn.
Okay, that would work. Any final remarks you want to give to the attendees, to the all the users who had who had the questions and who attended your session? Anything about how you want? How is there anything special you want to mention about this Azure governance and security, and where they should look to learn more? As you see, you have the like resources, and what is your recommendations to wrap up the session? Please go ahead.
Sure. I would suggest something that if you really wanted to make a career in security and governance, there's new exam also come up apart from AG 500, SC 200, which is cyber security or Microsoft Azure. But as and when Microsoft Cloud is adopting, like the people are adopting, organizing it, adopting as much as fast, there are hundred thousands and many more Azure security engineers are needed because lot of organizations still they are finding Azure security engineers as an Azure administrator, and I can see
Mm-hmm.
that they're expecting an administrator can do security things, but when your security is specialized, you'll come to know what are the controls and what are the things you wanted to put in. When they give that role to an administrator, what will happen? He can utilize that to create some services or to put somewhere here and that. So if you really wanted to make the career on that, it's literally high. And if you wanted to learn, these are the resources or best is MS Learns, which you can utilize it. MS Docs is the wonderful documents. Why I would not suggest some course around the Udemy and all of those because they every day MS Docs are getting changed. When I wake up early in the morning tomorrow, there's something changed with the name, something is getting changed. So I would say just start learning small. And if you have any doubts, you can always reach out to us. I'm really happy to help you out to make your career in security centers. And please do join this cloud or follow Cloud Lunch and Learn. My credentials are there. Okay. I really sorry I missed that credentials in that PPT. I'll make sure to be added. But please do follow that Cloud Lunch and Learn, and probably you can connect with me over LinkedIn or Twitter. You can always ping us. I'll help you with all the way and all the prospects because I work for the community and I just wanted to contribute more on that. Love it.
Thank you, Walid, for your final touch on your presentation, and thank you, audience, for listening. As you saw, there was a full set of resources, references to Microsoft Docs, and reference to the CS 100, I believe, cybersecurity expert certification that just kind of get released. So that's kind of good learning resources that Lalit recommends you to dive in and get more serious about security engineering and kind of expand your knowledge. And again, thank you, Lalit, for giving this overall good presentation about Azure security and governance and showing the demo on Azure portal with the policies in place. That was all great, and there is also good, feedback on the studio from the chat that I see from Anthony, from Bora, and from Vijay and others. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Vijay, for being our guest speaker today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining and
Thanks.
listening.
Thanks. Have a nice day.